All right, we should be live. We should be live. All right, I got a chat. Good, I think. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. It's another last minute live stream, but some interesting things I found today. I'm like, you know what? Let's just go on and get this out in the open. How's everybody doing tonight? Let me throw the chat up. Boom. There we go. All right, I'm going to put this away. Oh, man. Broke, what's going on? Zelly, how you doing tonight? Dufresne, how is everyone doing? Yeah, we are live right now. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Just let me know if you got audio coming in. Make sure. If someone could just throw a 1 in the chat and let me know if you can hear me. Hey, Lizzie. I'm assuming since Lizzie said hi that you can hear me. I'm hoping. Good? Broke Ape, thank you, man. All right, we'll wait for a couple other people to join us, and then I'm going to jump right into it. Good stuff. Jay Beebs, what's going on, man? It's been a minute. Good to see you, bro. Zelly, how you doing tonight? Zelly, I guess you're getting notifications. Good. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. All right, let me all right, so just for a heads up, I'm going to share this real quick, but this is what I'm planning on for tomorrow night's live stream, just to get you guys prepared. Good stuff, good stuff. Jay Beeb says, hey, Mass. Doing great. We meet again, says Zelly. All right, that's what I like to hear. I'm glad to see my OG. Jay Beebs has been with me for a long time, man. So I'm glad to see that Jay Beebs is still around, hanging tough like the new kids. All right. So I saw an interview, I believe it was 2 days ago, on Sean Ryan's podcast with a former Marine. And this is the article. So this guy had an encounter in, I believe, Indonesia. After, Zelly, you might know about this. After a big earthquake that they had down there with a tsunami. Because Zelly, where are you? Zelly's in the Philippines, right? Tell me where you are again. I know somewhere in that area. But anyways, here, let me throw this up on the screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Share screen. So this guy was a Marine, and for 14 years, he kept it to himself. I believe he was under NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. And I listened to the whole podcast the other night, all 2 hours of it, and I was kind of blown away by the story. It's a fascinating story, but also extremely terrifying. And just so you guys know where I'm going with this, I'm going to play this little clip. Tucker was talking the other day with, and I know some people out there find Tucker controversial, but he speaks a lot of truth, and that's what I'm looking for at the end of the day. Whatever his personal beliefs are, I can't account for that, but I do know he tries, or at least seems to me like he's trying to tell the whole story, the truth, and nothing but the truth. And that's really all I'm looking for. As long as he can do that in a non-biased way, then I'll take my news from anywhere, as long as it's factual and I can back it up with some other site. So let me play the little clip and you guys will know where we're going tomorrow night for the live stream. But this, yes, you do. You remember this, Ellie? Okay. All right. Let me play the clip. And this scared the shit out of me when I heard it. So Tucker was on with the gentleman, Clayton Morris, who used to be on Fox News. So they have a little bit of a connection there. But what Tucker said, easy. And I don't know if I've fully understand what he's talking about. But as I'm digging into this story a little more, I'm starting to see where they're going with this whole UAP, UFO, the entities, the interdimensional beings, the light versus the dark. All right, here we go. So this is a little clip that they had going back and talking about the extraterrestrial stuff.
Bothers me is the UFO story. And you know, the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of it, again, that's another story where there are some, fanciful ideas floating around that are just, there's no other true. But if you talk to people who, have actual knowledge of it, that they gathered themselves, parts of that story that I do not understand at all, that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I haven't told my wife. I haven't verified any of this. But this is not just stuff that I read. I know you all are very, very grounded in that story, so I think I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. There's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. And I think, last thing I'll say, that one of the reasons that we've had all these disclosures and all these, 10 whistleblowers at this point, and it hasn't really become front page news. Part of it's suppression. Parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far. The implications are too profound. And I understand that. Because I've heard things like, oh man, I don't even really want to know that, honestly.
Deeply disturbing stuff. Forget like saucers and technology. It's deeply disturbing stuff that I haven't even told Natalie. Yep. I agree with you. It's so disturbing. Exactly. I can't even tell my kids. My kids ask me different stories about it, and I won't say it because it's so dark. It's so dark.
I totally agree.
Miles is watching. So.
Okay, Miles, if you're watching the show, Daddy's not going to tell you about that part of the UFO stuff and what's going on with the government.
Well, can I say one thing? They've known clearly, this is, I think, established, and I feel comfortable saying this as fact. The U.S. government, these are real, whatever they are. They're not human. And the government has known that for a long time, possibly going back to the 1930s at least. And, of course, there's tons of evidence in the written record, in the physical record, in paintings, and in literature, that people have been seeing and interacting with these things for a long time. So we know that. But the justification one often hears is, well, the government, various presidents all have been, haven't wanted to disclose this because it would scare people. And I've always thought that's bullshit. You're hiding a crime, which they are, by the way, in my opinion. But I do think there's a sense in which that's not totally crazy. Like, there is some stuff, if it's true, and I'm kind of thinking it may be true, that's so radical that, well, as we both said, we don't want to tell the people we love most about it, because, like, why would you disturb someone like that? So I kind of get that. I get it. I'm not arguing for hiding things. I believe in the truth and I believe in disclosure, but I understand the impulse, like, holy smokes, this is heavy. You know what I mean?
And the government's involvement in it makes it even heavier, because then you realize the the
exactly.
Of it. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about the same thing. I can tell.
Yeah,
excuse me.
Should I go?
No. This is what we used to talk about in commercial breaks all the time. This is the kind of stuff. Anyway.
Okay, so this just ties in a little bit with what we're discussing tonight, talking about our democracy and the government. But, and Cancel Bubble brings up a great question. Jack says, out of the rabbit hole and down to the lizard hole. Jack, what's going on, man? Kansas Bubble says, and this is a great question. I actually thought this myself when I first heard the story. He says, why would an extraterrestrial vehicle need to be loaded with terrestrial weapons? Which is a great question, because according to this Marine, and this was back, 14 years ago, right? So we're talking early 2000s. He said that, let me pull the article back up so make sure I get this, what we're because according to him, these were terrestrial weapons. These were, run of the mill, military grade, but the hardware was nothing overwhelming, right? So here's the exclusive. Marine vet breaks 14-year silence to make astonishing claim that his 6-man unit saw an octagonal UFO being loaded with weapons by unmarked U.S. forces who threw them while serving in Indonesia in 2009. Okay, there's the year. And now tomorrow night we'll go more in depth into the interview. I have a bunch of timestamps of different things that he said, and but this is him here. This is the guy, and this supposedly is a picture of what he saw. And as you can see here, in this picture, make sure you guys are seeing that on the screen. Yeah, okay. In this picture, he said he saw trucks driving up this ramp that were underneath this hovering, and that, again, they were conventions that were being loaded onto this UAP. So we'll go into a little bit here, and then we're going to jump to the stuff that we can prove. When a 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck Sumatra on September 30th, his 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines Echo Company, 2nd Platoon was rerouted to help guard helicopter airdrops around Padang City, beset by insurgents. So they were medical and food and those type of things. I believe of a carrier group that was in the area. I don't know exactly where, but I'll have that information tomorrow night when we go into it. He said the thing was massive, the size of a football field. The craft was rotating in a clockwise motion while changing colors. It had audible hum to it, like the sound of a transformer or guitar amp. If anyone's a musician, you'll know what that sound is. It's pretty distinct. It was an octagonal shape top that was black. Now, that part of the story does match up with some things that Bob Lazar talked about in when he was working down in Area 51. Then they said they were set upon when they landed by these unpatched. They were not patched military. They had identifying who these people were. They were like all in black mercs. Said it's a large weapons. Is that as they took the Marines' weapons and dumped their ammunition, scanned their military IDs, Herrera said he saw others loading large weapons cases and containers from a modified 350 truck onto a platform beneath the craft. When the last 2 trucks finished unloading and drove off, the lower part of the platform rose off the ground to about 10 feet, and the craft lowered to meet it, and it came together in one piece. So going back to the picture here, and this is the better picture, I think, of the two. So basically what he was saying was, see the trucks there in the background. We're rolling up onto this ramp, and that top piece came down as the bottom base piece met. And so, think of like a clamshell closing. And again, it was conventional weaponry, but then another trailer that was being loaded on, and he talks about it in the interview. He says it had a curvature at the front of it, and he thought it might have been used for air conditioning or some type of refrigeration. And this is, I think, what they're talking about here, or at least what Tucker and Redacted were talking about, was some type of human trafficking going on. And this is a rabbit hole. As Jack said, we really are going down a rabbit hole when we talk about this. But it does coincide with what we're with the government, and they were still representing the people. And if this type of shit is going on about the tech, and clearly the tech is not Earth, and something that could benefit humanity and maybe put an end to the fossil fuel wars that are going on all around the world right now for means of profit, that would be a huge crime against humanity, right? So, but again, Cancel Bubble says, why would you need terrestrial weapons going into an extraterrestrial vehicle? I have no idea what the reason or where these weapons were headed, who they were going for. I don't know if they use a ship like this to transport things that they don't want. Think about all the money that's gone missing um, from all the Black Ops and DARPA and just the Pentagon itself. How we always, every 10 years we're missing $2.5 trillion. If they're trying to hide stuff like this and make it so that there's no logs for planes taking off or landing anywhere, just that's kind of where I'm headed when I'm thinking about this stuff. So we're going to get more in depth into it tomorrow night. Tonight we're going to kind of stay with the stuff that's focused on the planet that we live on now, things we can physically touch. And so, yeah. But for tomorrow night, if you want to know the story, that's the story from the Marine. It's Sean Ryan. I think it was episode 66. And the gentleman's name is Michael Herrera. And if I remember when we get off tonight, I'll put a link in the description for this video so you can go watch it yourself so you know what we're going to be talking about tomorrow night. J Beeb says he saw a Pizza Hut. It looks like a Pizza Hut a little bit, doesn't it? All right. So, all right. So we're going to start off tonight with something. I'm going to go back to Tucker for a second, but stuff that's popping up. You know how Twitter goes. They're always feeding you on the algorithm things they think you'd be interested in. So a lot of times they'll send me, because I watch, I think, a lot of stuff that Carlson puts out, just because I find him to be, digging for truth. It pops up in my queue a lot on Twitter. So that's why, probably why there's so much of it. But he gave a speech, I believe, in Iowa earlier this year. And it's pretty fascinating in how true what he's saying is. When we're talking about the government right now, and, just thinking back, 250 years ago yesterday was the Boston Tea Party, which kind of kicked things off for this, for the revolution that took place in 76. And, we might be headed back down that real quick before we go into his speech. I'm going to show you. I saw this earlier, and this is just incredible, man, because we are destroying all of the history, good and bad, that's gone on in this country for the last 250 some odd years, 300 years. What are we on? Yeah, 250 we're coming up on. All right. I saw this today and I'm just like, man, this is fucking crazy. What? Why? Who is signing off on it? I want to find out. That's what I'm gonna be working on tomorrow, is finding on these things. All right, so it was up earlier today, and this is from so the Biden administration is removing the reconciliation in Arlington. So this is Arlington, Virginia. I'm assuming this is the National Cemetery. The monument was built 109 years ago to honor post-Civil War reconciliation and national unity. So understand what is behind the monument, right? History is being rewritten before our eyes. It's almost like they don't want us to know. They want to erase any record of what happened in the past. Why? I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is. Mark says, Trump said they wouldn't stop with the Confederate statues. History isn't there for you to like or dislike. It's there for you to learn from it. If it offends you, that's even better, because then your list not yours to erase or destroy. And really, I want to know who is signing off on this, on doing this. This guy who posted it says, it's okay, we're just watching a movie. Patriots are in control. Storm is coming. Complain more. That'll show those communists. We need to vote harder. Lindell and the PCAPs and the 9-0 SCOTUS suit. It's happening. And I don't think any of that is really going on. I know a lot of people are saying that behind closed doors, but I think what we're seeing out in the open is what's truly happening. But I want to look into this tomorrow and find who is signing off on destroying this stuff and moving this stuff. Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. But anyways, all right. So I'm going to go to Tucker's speech now. Like I said, this was in Iowa this summer. And I think he made some fascinating points on, because we keep hearing from the Democrats that if Trump is elected again, we're going to lose our democracy. It's going to be gone forever, and we're never going to get it back. And all I see right now is a lot of pushing by the left. And really, they're doing what they're saying is supposedly going to happen if Trump gets back in office. All right, so here's Tucker's speech, and we'll break it up. Okay, there we go. I need to make sure you guys can see what's going on.
People directly benefiting from it. This is the main thing I've learned in the past 5 years that I'm 54 my whole life, and because I, unlike everyone else in Washington, actually kind of believed in the basic premise of democracy, which is the majority rules. That's the most basic fact of democracy. The people run their own government. If you get a majority of people to vote for something, that's now the law. And that's totally untrue. You could put it in a ballot referendum, some judge will overturn it. Well, what about democracy? You could spend billions of dollars on a foreign policy theory that nobody actually supports. Doesn't matter. In the end, most governments are run by a small group of people for their own benefit without reference to what the majority wants. And I hate to believe that that's true in this country, but all the evidence suggests that it is. In fact, it's provable. You know how you prove it? Public opinion polling. Take a look at the poll. What are the top 10 issues for people in the United States? And then compare those to the priorities of your leaders. So people are leaving Michigan because it's very hard to make a living here, and you're constantly hassled by a government that never stops growing and that is leeching off an economy that hasn't grown in decades, okay? That's the truth. Take a look at the...
Great point, right? So he's talking about Michigan there in particular, and, that's up in the Rust Belt. Michigan's been famous for, car manufacturing since Ford set up shop there, right? And he's right, 100%. Look, that whole industry is getting crushed right now, and they're still leeching off the people, putting forward these bills that no one has voted on, no one is asking for. It's a completely different thing. And tonight, I'm just going to try to focus on things that are happening in this country right now, and the money that's getting wasted right now. Again, representation, taxation without representation. What we are paying for, the taxes are going to, are not things that our constituents are agreeing on. It is what a few people are asking for so they can virtue signal their ass off.
Priorities of the low IQ lunatic who's running your state. Gretchen Whitmer, who deserves zero respect. No respect. Her priorities are what? Putting you in jail if you, quote, misgender somebody? What percentage of the population of the state of Michigan, even southeastern Michigan, is on board with that as a top concern? It's like roughly around 0.1%, okay, in that range. The things that people care about, Gretchen Whitmer couldn't care less about. Because democracy isn't functioning. If democracy was functioning in America, in Michigan, in California, the District of Columbia where I live, the state of Maine, the state of Texas, how many Texans do you think are all on board with like 7 million people crossed into their state illegally? What percentage? Zero. I don't care what your race or national origin. Nobody is for that. That's insane.
Again, another point that is spot on. No one has signed off on this illegal immigration. Even for the people now who, looking back, are regretting voting for Biden. And, you guys, I know no one saw it, but the last video I put out, Jimmy and Tucker were talking about, and I brought up the argument that I think they're importing the next military so that they can clamp down the American people in case something pops off, because these people have no loyalty to the country. They don't have any belief in a constitution, a document that was written 250 years ago. They do not care. They don't have anyone to go home to family, friends, neighbors that they have to answer to if they turn their own guns on the American people. They don't care, right? They don't have to go home and live with that. Whereas, 80 to 90% of the military right now might have a hard time pulling the trigger on an American citizen when they have to go back to, Fort Smith, Arkansas, and see their family at Christmas time and, be like, yeah, I shot a couple Americans last week because a riot popped off in wherever, Dearborn, let's say.
Has the governor of Texas done anything meaningful to stop that? No. The Republican governor? He's got a National Guard. He's the commander-in-chief for the National Guard, and it's Texas, so they're all large. And they have double-stack magazines in their sidearms. You think they couldn't stop that in a week if they? Of course. Just assemble along the border. We're not doing this.
And this is the point that we talk about. I'm sorry to keep stopping this, but I know I'll get nailed here for copyrights. But that's the thing, right? If Greg Abbott wanted to stop the illegal immigration flow, he could do it in a heartbeat. Oh, you guys, give me 1 second. I'll play this, and then I'll come back.
No, he refuses to do that. He won't do it. And it's not like no one suggested. I 3 times, including in private, at a cocktail party in Dallas last year. What are you doing, man? Don't you have a National Guard? Why don't you seal the border? Oh, it's very complicated. No, it's not. No, it's not. If someone's trying to break into my house, it's not complicated to repel the person. Do you have a firearm or don't you? Are you willing to defend your house and your children, or aren't you? Well, it's more complicated. That really, tell me how. Speak slowly so I can understand. It's not more complicated than that. It's more dishonest than that. You're lying to me. You don't want to do it because your donors don't want you to do it. It's that simple. Greg Abbott. Liar, and worse than liar, betrayer of your own people. That's what that is. I was polite at the cocktail party, so I didn't say any of that, but I fumed internally like an Episcopalian. I thought those things. But the point is, if you assume that just because everybody wants something, you're going to get it, think again, pal. It's very likely that, in fact, you won't get anything that you want. You will just pay for what a small group of other people want. That's the way it works.
Going back to Greg Abbott, he could shut that down in a heartbeat. This isn't even a bipartisan. This is a bipartisan issue because the Republican governors do nothing about it. Excuse me, I had to run to the door. Take a deep breath. All right. He could do it in a heartbeat, but he chooses not to. So this is intentional. When we look back on this time period and wonder how everything slipped away, people like that should be held accountable for what they did. It's unconstitutional, and personally, in my opinion, it's treasonous.
Boo! Boo is right. Boo is right. It's not just frustrating, it's betrayal of the core promise of the country, which is the people rule. That's a criminal act. That is a act. Let's just put this in context. It's not just like you have boutique, weird, right-wing views and that's how they want you to feel. Like, oh, you're an extremist. Really? I'm an extremist? I'm the one who let 7 million people into our country illegally, whose names we don't know?
Yeah, and Greg Abbott could put stop to this in 10 minutes. Amber, how you doing tonight? Amber says that's a big rabbit hole mass. Oh, for tomorrow night? Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I'm going to try to stick with it's possibly stuff that we can physically kind of understand in our own world, right? I want to stay away from anything that's out of our realm of reality. I don't know how close we can come to Jack says, missing money, yeah, I guess even when the government could start a profitable smuggling operation and run a deficit. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been proven now many times over. The CIA has been running a lot of these ops. The drug war is a complete farce. I just saw the other day there was a bunch of people crossing over the border with a cartel guy, and the cartel guy let everyone through, then looked at the camera guy, went like this, and then gave him an AO on the way out. Like, it's happening right in front of everyone's face, and no one's doing anything about it. It's absolutely nuts. Caleb says, "What's up, Mass? Thank you for your efforts." Yeah, man. It's all good. I just, we need to be talking about this stuff. We cannot heads in the sand and act like none of this is happening. It is fucking happening right in front of our faces, right under our noses. And it truly is radicalizing me to a point. I mean, it really is. It's getting me to the point where, thank God I have this outlet. Like, thank God I have this outlet. Should I go into this now or wait? Let me get to some more comments. Harry Parrott, what's going on, brother? Brocape says, "What's the word? This new movie by the Obamas." We just did a live stream about it, Brocape, the other night. If you look, there's a live stream. I think the last one we did was on the Obama movie, like an hour and a half live stream. You'll see then the thumbnail is a big picture of Obama on it with the movie poster. We went over the whole thing. But if you haven't seen it yet, honestly, don't waste your time. It was a terrible movie. Unless you want to kind of understand what this predictive programming might be and why they're used. Other than that, I mean, the quality of the movie, I wasn't a fan, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. By the way, Harry Parrott, shout out to Harry Parrott. He says a Republican House rep said if they took the statue down, the military would lose funding. Yeah, I guess that didn't happen. Or well, if it did, they're still taking the statue down, right? By the way, Harry Parrott, shout out to Harry Parrott. Harry said, go watch Kash Patel's interview. And we're going to watch that in a minute. Not the one that Harry recommended, but because of Harry Parrott, I started reading Government Gangsters, which is in the title of tonight's thumbnail. It's actually on the thumbnail. It's Kash Patel's book talking about the deep state, and I'm getting a very good understanding right now of exactly what the deep state is and who is the deep state. And it is very real what is going on. And when Tucker was just talking in that interview, in that speech there about, the views and wishes of a few, are the views of many are being sacrificed for the views and wishes of a few is 100% dead on. I just finished chapter 8 of the book, and I'm going to do a huge video on it. I might even include like a little bit of it in the documentary, but yeah, shout out to Harry Parrott for hitting me on to that interview. Speaking of which, if you want, let's watch, because Kash was on talking about the Fisa reports. I think it was yesterday. Actually, it might have been earlier today. I think it was earlier today. He was on Fox News with, I think Dershowitz was on there, and Maria Bartiromo. All right, let's pop this up for you. There we go. Okay. Make this big. Man, I wish I had another monitor. Okay.
The biggest concern I have for it is the politicization and weaponization and creation of a two-tier system of justice as a result. Back when Devin Nunes and I ran the Russiagate investigation and exposed the Fisa corruption, we recommended a slew of fixes so it never happened again. Unfortunately, Congress chose to allow 702 Fisa to basically be reauthorized. What does that mean? What is 702? It's fancy for foreign intelligence surveillance. I mean, me as a former national security prosecutor and intelligence operative would go overseas and manhunt terrorists. That's what it's for. But the Fisa court in April of 2022 publicized an opinion that said they used it illegally 275,000 times domestically against Americans, 16 different occasions against those affiliated with January 6th, 19,000 times domestically against donors to a congressional campaign, and wait for it, 24,000 separate times against Americans and groups in and around January 6th. That FISA process has been turned on its head redirected inwards. Anyone who says, oh, that's just a Republican conspiracy speak, that's the FISA court that rescinded Rod Rosenstein's illegal surveillance of Donald Trump twice based on our investigation, and now they do it again, and they prove the FBI and DOJ have weaponized justice, and the Republican leadership in Congress allowed it to be reauthorized, essentially through the next election cycle.
Okay, so again, this is not, the Republicans out there are absolutely useless. Like the people we have in office right now, this is not a Democrat-Republican thing, and one side's good and the other bad. No, it's on both sides. It has gotten completely out of control, and people thought in 2022 we'd have this red wave, and they'd start looking out for the American people. These fucking people are all out for themselves. They don't give a shit about any one of us, any of our rights, or any of our freedoms. It is not, this is a bipartisan thing that's going on here. And reading Cash's book, just seeing all of the dirty shit that is pulled in DC, because he was in there, right? I mean, he was deep down the swamp with Devin Nunes, and just like the shit Bill Barr talked to him about, and when Trump was thinking about making him director of the FBI, and that Bill Barr said he would pull, he would pull out all his cards, and no matter what, he would stop Trump from making that nomination. It's just crazy how deep this conspiracy is. I mean, it really got me fired up to start looking at ways to fix this, because, I don't want to see a real revolution out there. Like, I don't want to see that in the streets. That's not going to be fun for anyone, right? That's not, especially the left. This is the worst thing they could possibly hope for, is some type of pop off in this country. But maybe it needs to be fixed by people who are just willing to go into the swamp and clean it out, that have no ties. Again, going back to what we said the other night in the live stream about, things that Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman, who's running for Congress, term limits, single issue bills, no more insider trading for senators and Congress people, and getting lobbyists and money out of politics completely. And I think the real only way that's going to happen is if we send people to DC who put the kibosh on that forever. Kryptonian, what's going on, man? Kryptonian says Zuck is building $100 million property with apocalypse shelter. That in Kauai, right? Kauai, Hawaii. Let me see if I can get the article up. Oh, but before that, let me finish this thing on Cash and what he was talking about here. So the FISA courts. Let's finish what his point in all this was. So again, this is not something where the Republicans are going to save us. This is a case of we need to literally clean house in DC.
So what will this mean in terms of the FBI, Christopher Wray, going into the next election?
Well, that's just it. Christopher Wray goes to Congress and says, I fixed it all. We have more training. Well, unfortunately, when you have the police officers, the cops in this country who break the law, we can't rely on themselves to police themselves. That is a communist form of a police representation. What we have to have had done is Congress to bill, the cops in the FISA process at the FISA court, limiting this power. I mean, just think of it. If Chris Wray and Merrick Garland and company utilized the FISA process to manhunt terrorists that were illegally coming into our country through our southern border, we wouldn't lose 24 of them based on their own testimony. And so what Chris Wray has now done is weaken American national security and redirected one of the most sensitive intelligence apparatuses against elections and those protesting their free speech right within America. And every time the FISA court asked the FBI, why did you allow your agents to do this? Their answer was, I could not recall. And they gave them a get out of jail free card, and the Republican majority, I know this is harsh, rewarded them for breaking the law and allowing this election interference to continue through 2024, mainly against Donald Trump.
Wow, there's
the biggest.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. And like I said, I'll be doing a video on the book as soon as I'm finished with it. I got through the first 8 chapters in like 3 days, so we're not that far off. Dufresne, how you doing tonight? Dufresne's in the house. I'm a professional. Ilikru Suva. Elrico Suave says Tucker for VP. Daniel, how you doing tonight? Kryptonium, I'll get back to the Zuck thing. Don't let me forget. But in case you guys aren't aware of what the Fisa. So this is from the Brennan Center of Justice. This is Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, a resource page. Barry Electronics, I see you in the chat. What's going on, man? Good to see you tonight. So this collection of resources provides information on the 2324 reauthorization process of Section 702 of FISA, a foreign intelligence surveillance authority that the government is using to gain warrantless access to Americans' communications. And I'm telling you guys, they're going to be using this against all of us. In 2008, Congress enacted Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act to expand the government's capacity to conduct surveillance on suspected foreign terrorists. So again, this is the Trojan horse that's always used. You bring it in under the veil of something else and then turn it on your own people. Although the surveillance may be targeted at foreigners abroad, it inevitably sweeps in large amounts of Americans' phone calls, texts, and emails. Congress and the FISA court have attempted to limit the government's access to these cases, but the government has engaged in widespread violations of these limits. To give just a few examples, the FBI has conducted warrantless searches of Section 702 acquired information to access communications of Black Lives Matter protesters, U.S. government officials, journalists, political commentators, and 19,000 donors to a single congressional campaign. So they go in here and talk about there's a bunch of different articles in here from the Brennan Center for Justice. But this is what it is. This is kind of like the Patriot Act on steroids. And the Republicans are doing nothing to stop it. So again, this is a bipartisan. These people are all corrupt. Like Tucker said, they are just out to enrich themselves and keep themselves in power. Our democracy was handed to these people a long time ago. So for anyone out there right now, still out on Twitter or any one of these social media things, talking about losing our democracy, you are fucking delusional. That's gone, right? And we're gonna have to put up a hell of a fight to get it back. Harry Parrott says the illegal alien issue comes from the UN. This has all been planned out, so I have that bookmarked. I was reading it. Yeah, I was reading it the other day. I don't know if you saw it, Harry Parrott, my last video, but I mentioned it in the last video I put out. Let me, I'll show you guys the actual document. Where's my bookmarks? All right. Give me a sec so I can go to my bookmarks and find. Yeah, I just closed it recently. All right, I'll look for it when we have something playing in the background. I don't want to keep you guys held up. Lizzie says, look up the National Defense Authorization Act of 2021. The naming commission was established after the George Floyd incident. So, and again, this isn't just being used on conservatives, right? They've used this against the Uhuru group, which is some black socialists that are against the war in Ukraine. They've jailed people over this. Like, again, I think civil war is the wrong term we're talking about here. Bucks fan knows what I'm saying. It's not civil war. It's going to be a revolution. You're going to get people of all colors, cultures, ages. At some point, we're going to have to put our foot down. Just be like, enough is enough. Dufresne, what's going on tonight? Brocape says, gotta watch your stream. Don't know how I missed it. Yeah, it was just the other night, Brocape. I was on, we went back to back Wednesday and Thursday night, I believe. Or Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday night. I think we went back to back. Or Thursday and Friday. You'll see Obama on it. You can't miss it. Harry Parrott says, FYI, Greg Abbott visited the WEF in 2020. All right, let me just see if I can get that bookmark right now. Hang on. Let me just look it up and pull it out because I went through the document the other day. So this is 100% a United Nations thing. Again, the thought of turning these people into military personnel should be fucking horrifying for all of us because these are people who have no problem turning the gun on their neighbors, their own family. They have no loyalty to this country. And the fact that Dick Durbin would even bring something like that up in the halls of Congress, seriously, like he should be in front of a firing squad, literally. You might as well be Benedict Arnold. All right, let me see if I can get to that document. Here we go. All right. Did I just kick myself out of my own live stream? I think I did. I think I just booted myself out of my own live stream. If I lost you guys for a second, I apologize. Bucks fan says it reminds me of Rome. All right, so the best way to do this, I'm going to pull up the document real quick, and then I'm just going to play a little bit because that video that I put out the other day about all this only has 200 views, so you guys saw it. I'll just play a little clip of it, and I won't copyright myself. All right, here we go. So this is from I want to 2006. We'll be able to see it in a second. Let me just make it. All right. This is the document here. This is from the UN. So it's entitled, it's from March 21st of 2000. Replacement migration, is it a solution to declining and aging populations? It says, note here, the designations employed in the presentation of the material in these publications do not imply the expression of any opinion whatsoever of the part of the Secretary of the United Nations concerning the legal status of any country, borders, boundaries, blah, blah, blah. So here's the preface. The Population Division of the Department of Economic and Social Affairs at the UN is responsible for providing the international community with up-to-date and scientifically objective information on population development. In particular, the Population Division is concerned with the following substantive areas. Let me make this a little bigger for you. Can you guys see that? Make it a little bigger. All right, here we go. Hopefully now you guys can see that. In particular, the Population Division is concerned with the following substantive areas: patterns of mortality, fertility, and the international and internal migration, including levels and trends, their causes and consequences, and socioeconomic, geographic, and gender differentials, spatial distribution of population between urban and rural, population size, age and sex structure, spatial distribution, and demographic indicators for all countries of the world. The work of the population division is published in a variety of formats, blah, 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 blah. All right. So they go in here and they talk about 10 different countries, including the European Union as a whole. And on page 73 here, they go into the U.S. So I'm going to scroll down. If they show here. Okay, so they go through. Oh, okay. I went past it. It's one more, I believe. They go through all these countries and basically they talk about what would happen to the population. If you're looking at this chart right here, if you have zero in, if you have constant migration coming through, they go through all these variables as far as replacement theory. And they talk about basically how many people you need to bring in to keep the population levels as they are right now, or if you want to see them decline by a certain amount, like they go through every possible scenario in demographics for all these countries. And they go all the way up to 2050. Like they space it out to 2050 as far as their estimations. See if I can find. Yeah, here we go. All right. Okay, so in here, they're talking about fertility rates and the decline that we see going on, which is all coming from the top down, right? We're getting people out there, the things they're doing, transgender movement and destroying everyone's sexual mutilation that's going. All of this is part of this population decline and getting the world down. And whether or not you believe that they did that with the vax, there's been a lot of stuff coming out recently that I've seen as far as people talking about this turbo rate of cancer. There was a doctor just the other day, and I suggest if you guys have time, there's a lot of documents here to go over, and obviously I didn't go through every single one of them, but if you want to kind of have an idea of what their plan is, what they've been planning since 2000, it's coming to fruition right now. Like they are seeing their numbers right on point here with all of this. In the end of their assessment here, it says, during the first half of the 21st century, the populations of most industrialized countries are projected to become smaller and older in response to below replacement fertility, as well as increased longevity. The consequences of significant population decline and population aging are not well understood, as they are a new demographic experience for countries. Keeping retirement and healthcare systems for older persons solvent in the face of declining and aging populations, for example, constitutes a new situation that poses serious challenges for governments and civil society. The new challenges being brought by declining and aging populations will require objective, thorough, and comprehensive reassessments. But that's not even it, right? Ever since 2014, it's just been an unrelenting mass migration from all over the country, especially third country nations, into first world countries that are now bringing all of those nations down. Such reassessments will need to incorporate a long-term perspective. Would include the ages for retirement. I mean, this is all in there. The levels, types, and nature of retirement and healthcare benefits for the elderly, labor force participation, and assessed amounts of contributions from workers and employers to support retirement and healthcare benefits for the increasingly elderly population. And last but not least, policies and programs relating to international migration, in particular replacement migration and the integration of large numbers of recent migrants and their descendants. Like, it is all here in black and white. So for everyone who is saying that, you know, this is some kind of conspiracy out there, it is not. This is fact. This is what they want to do. It's what they're doing. It's what's going on, right? Ellie, how you doing tonight? Good to see you in the chat. I said what's up to Bucks fan, right? Lizzie says, I saw a CBS clip where the reporter stated the NGOs are running out of money to support the illegals. They funded by feds. Yeah, I saw that too, Ellie. It was in my video, so I'm gonna play a little clip of the video from the other day because I talked about a lot of this. I'm just not gonna copyright myself. And some of you might have already seen this. If you did, I apologize. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I'm just gonna pull 2 clips.
I would argue it's unlike any other large country in the world. So there's a second thing in that black box, an unrelenting stream of immigration, non-stop.
All right, so this is the clip here from the
How
sheriff.
bad the situation is.
Telling you that these migrants are getting $5,000 visa cards once they are processed through the border.
Look, I get this information from sources that are right inside of there, including guys that work with border fed up with what their government is doing. And I can go down to the cities where they dump them out into my county and other places. They go directly to the ATMs after that and start pulling money out. I see them on flights when I fly all over the country. I just flew to Chicago. I had to help a lady who was flying from Dallas because she didn't speak any English. So I spoke in Spanish to her to help her get to her flight to LaGuardia. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we, the taxpayer, are subsidizing all of this. While we have American families struggling from this horrible, bungled economy called Bidenomics, we're now subsidizing other people in this country and totally turning our back on the American people. And they're doing it right at the southern border. And KJP said something. She said that history will remember this. They will remember it. And they will remember that this administration, Biden and Mayorkas, turned their back on the American people and put us
look
at
at that line of people.
Terrorists, with fentanyl, with the rape.
All military men.
The list goes on and on, Jesse.
For the better part of 2 years now. Here's the other clip.
Right. They don't want to. The best case.
Second highest ranking person, how down they are in type of revolution in this country. Watch.
The Yankees are wising up to the scam of these foreign wars, and what's going to drive people into the shredder? The old standby, desperation. Right? So there's people who don't want to join their own military, but they want to go to someone else's country and join their military.
That's the best case scenario. That's the best case. I mean, first of all, they drove a lot of, anyone with self-respect was already driven out of the military by the vax mandates. So the high testosterone population has dropped dramatically in the military, and they do have a massive recruiting problem. Now, I would say the answer is clean up give it missions that the average person can support. People aren't joining the military because they don't support the mission, right? They don't, or send their sons to die for Ukraine. Sorry. But we should consider another possibility here. So if they were about 15 people without undocumented, illegal, whatever you want to call them, foreign nationals in our country who are not citizens. In a lot of cases, we don't know who they are. So if you're, and the majority of the ones who have come in the last 3 years are young military-age men. So if we say, okay, all of a sudden you get to join the military, and our military is led by people who don't know anything about the United States at all, you have to consider the possibility that the point is not to use them to fight another foreign war, but the point may be to use them domestically.
I can remember just 4 or 5 months ago, I was happy, which is nuts. And I just had that conversation a few days ago, or a few months ago with someone online. Well, maybe it's because if World War III does pop off, which it looks like we were headed that way, before even October 7th or anything going on in the Middle East, that, they were bringing these people in to replace people like me and you, who they're going to want to send out there to go fight in this war. And, but I think it's even more nefarious than that. I think they are looking to hire these people and put them into the military who have no loyalty to this country or to out it. They just here, and all they want to do is cash a check, be able to get a tax ID number or an employee ID number or social security number. And what better motivation could there be for you than that? You know? What's going on, man? Good to see you tonight. Lizzie said Kash Patel did an interview with Glenn Beck about his book. Yeah. So, Lizzie, I'm in chapter 8 of that book. I did see their interview, but it's really long. It's like 45 minutes. Maybe I could break it up, but I'm going to do a video on it in the next couple of days. As soon as I'm finished with it, I'm almost, I would say I'm probably 3/4 of the way through already by now. Titan, what's going on, man? Appreciate you. Titan says, just popped in to hit the like button. Do that issue, boy. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Lizzie says, we are so screwed. Yeah, we got some problems, Lizzie, right? That we're going to have to. I don't think it's over, but we definitely need to address these issues in the next couple, 12 to 16 months. I mean, we are headed down a path of no return if we continue this way. And the fact that they keep talking about losing our democracy if Donald Trump comes back into office, what else could we possibly give up at this point that they haven't already taken? Bucks fan says it reminds me of Rome. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where that conversation was going, right? Workforce to replace dead.
Increasingly certainly over the last 3 years, but really over the last couple of decades, has been used for different purposes. Not the National Guards. That's constitutional. The governor calls the guard out, right? There's a problem. But the standing U.S. has been used, and its intel services have been used. And that is the case on January 6th, but I think it's the case much more often than that. So if all of a sudden you're saying our military, we should give automatic weapons to people who just got here from countries who we know nothing about at all, and those people can be used to keep order in the United States. I mean, this is literally how Rome fell. I mean, as you may or may not know, literally taking foreigners into the legions, and all of a sudden they're like, well, wait a second, we don't know what Rome thing is, and we're not into it. And they ended the empire. So we should be very careful.
There will be some day. Oh, yeah. Just heading down a slippery slope right now, man. Titan says we lost democracy last election, possibly in the Obama administration. Just saying, brother. Yeah, man. I mean, that's going to be a documentary, right? Obama really fished it on its head. You're talking about we're operating on laws right now in a justice system from the 1100s, because even in the Magna Carta, we had habeas corpus, right? You couldn't be jailed indefinitely with no charges, but that's happening right now. Right now. And again, as me and Bucks fan have been saying, it's not civil war, right? It's going to be a revolution. And, if you get in the fucking way, then prepare to get rolled over. I mean, I think that's the only describe it best to those on the left and, this younger generation that has no backbone. Half of them don't know which bathroom to use or what pronoun to go by. Never mind to try to put a clip into a firearm. And it's going to end very badly for those people. And, I see shit like this. I mean, this is a prime example of it, right? So the mayor of Boston, just a few months back, went on and did this huge press conference. I think I have it here to play. Okay. Yeah. So let's share this. So this is Mayor Wu of the Wu-Tang Clan. This was just a few months ago. And she's talking about, well, I'll let her do the speaking.
Across the Boston Police Department, the Transit Police, the State Police, the FBI, and all of our partners in law enforcement and public safety, there's constant communication about the impending actions of any known groups. We continue to monitor the situation and to work closely with community members. Most of all, we ensure that community members are empowered in communicating anything they see or hear or read about on social media to please err on the side of reaching out to local public safety officials so that we can have the most information at hand. And we will continue to work in partnership with community members as we strategize and plan and coordinate to respond to not one-off incident growing rise and trend in white supremacy and hate. Across the Boston Police Department, the Transit Police, the State Police, the FBI, partners in public safety.
Yeah, we got it, Michelle. Thanks. So she's talking about white supremacy in Boston, Massachusetts, which, man, I can't even tell you. I mean, that's a city I grew up in. I went to Boston public schools. I had a graduating class of like 400 or 500, and maybe 10% of us were white. It was all mixed. We had kids from Africa, like Africa, Cape Verde and Nigeria, Uganda. We had a lot of Spanish kids. We had some Asian kids. It was very mixed, very diverse. I can't remember the last time I saw anything resembling white supremacy. Like, honestly, the last thing I think I saw was when this picture was taken. And this was back in, what? I want to say like the early 70s. This was from busing, right? This is like a famous photo. I believe right in the back there is the customs house, which is where the British used to collect the taxes from the colonists. And this might be Government Center. I think they might be on City. This might be right around City Hall. But the mayor, again, you want to try to suppress any type of racist stuff that's going on. See, no one's looking for white supremacy or I don't know the last time the Klan had her in Boston. But just the other day, she sent out this email to invite everyone. Now, mind you, just for context here, I want to show you Michelle Wu's family. Same thing goes the Obama video the other day. All the gay couples that designed the movie, directed it, and everything, they're all people of color who have white significant others. It's absolutely amazing. But they're afraid, apparently afraid of them. But they're letting them insert their members into their rear ends. It's quite amazing. I mean, you'll lie in bed with another guy with his unit hanging all over your forehead, but you're worried about him at the same time creating some crazy act against you. All right, so clear picture here. Yeah. So this is the mayor and her wife. Great. This guy. I bet he's a real stud bedroom. This is that's the mayor's husband right above my head here. So she's having a Christmas party that her own husband isn't invited to. Like, was he able to come, or did he have to stay home too? But this is, if you're looking for racism, this is it, Michelle. You are propagating it with this kind of shit. And again, the I saw comments. I think it's actually in this article. Let me see if I can find the comments. There was one white City Hall Boston official who was like, "No, dude, I'm not upset." Article back up. Yeah, here we go. So he said, "I really don't get offended too easily." Baker told the Herald, "To offend me, you're going to have to do much more than not invite me to a party." Baker said he wasn't sure what the reasoning behind the mayor having a separate party based on racial lines was, but said he didn't think it was a good move given the reasons on the city council. Now, I'm not sure. I haven't been in the city for a little bit, so I'm not up to date on what's going on there with the city council. Councilor Brian Rowell, who is black and was vying for before tentatively agreeing to become the body's vice president next term, defended the invite, however, saying that the holiday party is simply another example of reflecting all kinds of specific groups in city government. He said, "We make space and spaces for all kinds of specific groups in the city and city government. This is no different, and the elected officials of color has been around for more than a decade." And I would say that's all great. That's a wonderful thing. But I would say, I could be wrong, but around that said elected officials party whitely, you might have in the paper the next day. And I don't know how everyone would take that. I mean, if tomorrow's night's live stream, if I put in the live stream whites only UFO live stream, but just please, if you're please don't come. Please don't join in. Like, would that be considered just groups of people who, what did he say? What was his wording? All kinds of specific groups in the city government. This is no different. Yeah, specific group. I guess it would just be a specific group, right? It would be whites who enjoy talking about UAP and UFOs. You might get a very different reaction from social media tomorrow if that's the thumbnail I have up. Some people might be upset with me, but I don't know. Imagine, definitely, Barry. That guy is definitely 100%. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's a woman. Her husband looks absolutely, there's just nothing there. I mean, look at this picture. Fucking, but this is, I think there's something in the water, man. Because generation behind me and completely like, I can't imagine being this feminine, even just in the pictures that I'm in. I mean, look at this Mama Luke. I mean, if you ran to this guy in a dark alley, would you be scared? It's crazy. But again, I mean, what's good for the goose? That's how you stoke racial lines, though, by doing shit like this. Like, this is Martin Luther King must be spinning on a rotisserie right now at 100 miles an hour, hearing shit like this. And why the people of Boston put up with this, I have no idea. How this woman got elected, I have no idea. But this is not the way that we should be running the country in 2023. That kind of shit is all it's going to do is stoke more division. I don't know how people can't see that. And, Brian Rowell, God bless him, but he's just got a very twisted way of thinking. I'm telling you right now, if that shoe was on the other foot, especially in Boston, which has a history of these things happening, right? From as long as, at least in the last 40 years, before the last 40 years, there was definitely some racial history in the city, right? We're trying to wipe all that away, get it out of context, and make sure that that's not happening today. If you're starting to go backwards, we're starting to go backwards here on the philosophy, right? We're heading in the wrong direction. Claiming to be progressive, you're actually regressing us, unfortunately. The city, all that's going to do, and maybe it's not that guy, right? That guy says he has no big deal with it. I'm not going to be, but maybe his kid is already looking into extremist groups. Who knows, right? Let's just say, for example, he's got a young son, maybe, 16, 17, and he's getting some different ideas being on social media. Maybe what's coming up as algorithm isn't the best thing for, people are trying to be non-discriminatory. And then all of a sudden, your dad comes home from work, tells you a story that they're having a party for coloreds only, which sounds so wild. Like, who says that? But that's the verbiage they used. That's how you radicalize someone to start hating by race. And this is on purpose that they're doing this. This is not by accident. Bucks fan says they're losing the black vote. They have to stir the pot. Absolutely 100%. Yeah. But like I said in that video, a lot of Latin Americans, and I hate even saying Latin and African Americans, but just non-white Americans who aren't just like, white European stock are coming off the Democratic plantation. Thank God. Like, anything is better than what the Democrats are offering right now. And I don't think the Republicans have all the answers. Believe me, I have my issues with them as well. Both of the parties are absolutely suspect, but at least the Democrats, at least the Republicans are willing to put some work in to do some good things that will benefit all of us, right? Like helping with free speech and stuff like that. The Democrats don't want that at all, right? If you don't agree with whatever they're spitting, they don't want you to have a mic. Titan says, no one cares if you're gay. Common courtesy and respect go far, and people lack or forget that. Yeah, and again, I have nothing wrong with LGBTQ community or anything like that. I think it should be left out of kids' lectures. Keep it out of the libraries, at least until, kids are out of puberty. It's just this whole mindset is trying to turn this young Gen Z into a bunch of weirdos who don't reproduce, who have no identity. And it's like, I can't get down with, if you don't know who you are, how the fuck do you want me to respect who you tell me that you think you are? If you can't figure your own shit out, how am I supposed to get on board with you with that? I just can't. I can't. And again, I have gay friends. I had gay friends growing up. I had gay friends in college. My RA was gay. Unfortunately, he killed himself a while back, but one of the nicest kids ever. I got along with him for 2 years. I got along with him, no problem. We had fun together, drank together. And really sweet guy, right? But I draw the line when it comes to the kids. I want to keep that shit out of schools. That is indoctrination. There is just no need for it with young kids. And I don't understand what the obsession is with these people, this whole community, and wanting to push this agenda on little children. But I find it very disturbing. And again, not the kind of place I want my kids to grow up in. You don't have to put the heterosexual stuff in it either. Just keep it all out. All of it. I don't want any of it in. Just sex is not something that should be in little kids' vocabulary anywhere until they're at least talking to, close to puberty. Barry says, for Titan 476, I have no problem with people being gay. I have a problem with someone who blatantly gay and denies it. Yeah, but I don't even care about that, dude. If you want to live in the closet, look, a grown adult should be able to do whatever the hell they want, man. Like, seriously, like, this is America. You should be able to live however you want to live. I really, truly believe that. Like, it is none of my business what your sexual proclivities are. It's not my business. The only thing I want to do is keep it out of the schools. Like, I just, we took out the Bible and God and Christianity and all that stuff and the flag and the country, and we are now inserting this other thing that's completely the opposite of what we took out, and that is the new Pledge of Allegiance, national anthem, and Christianity model is now being replaced with this Marxist communist agenda, and it's just It's ruining our youth right now, creating kids who already might have some issues. I mean, look, for the kids that are gay right now and they're telling them that they're something else, like a lot of the kids who believe they're in this trans community are actually just gay, and they're cutting their Johnsons off, and they're never going to be able to have any type of sexual experience ever in their life. Like, it's just crazy that anyone would get on board with that. Like, I don't understand it. Backyard Boogie, what's going on, man? I'm a professional. Lizzie says, I don't want to know. Good to see you, Backyard Boogie. Says, I don't want to know what people do behind closed doors. Me either. I just want it out of the schools, man. I just want it out of the schools. Professional says, hey, I'd care if my son was gay. Sue me. Look, everyone is entitled to their own opinions, right? I don't think anyone should be telling anyone else what to think. Keeping it away from children is a completely separate issue. It just is. All right. To truly understand why we have no democracy and to prove it, and this is going to be in tomorrow's video, but I'll give you guys a little preview right now. Here we go. All right.
For the last few years, I had this sense that everything I learned as America's government works is completely wrong. But I had no idea how bad things actually were until I saw this one graph. Researchers at Princeton University looked at more than 20 years worth of data to answer a pretty simple question. Does the government represent the people? Now, this is what they found. This axis here represents public support for any given idea. On the left, at 0%, are ideas that not a single American wants. On the right, at 100%, are ideas that everyone supports. This axis represents the likelihood of Congress passing a law that reflects any of these ideas, from a 0 to a 100% chance. On this graph, an ideal republic would look like this. If 50% of the public supports an idea, there's a 50% chance of it becoming law. Percent of us support something, then 80% chance. Get the idea. Now, most Americans would probably agree that, with a few exceptions, we should be as close to this ideal as possible. Unfortunately, the way America actually works doesn't even come close. Take an idea that nobody supports, literally nobody, and it has about a 30% chance of becoming federal law. Now, take an incredibly popular idea, the most popular idea this country has ever seen, and there's also about a 30% chance of it becoming law. This means that the number of voters for or against any has no impact on the likelihood that Congress will make it law.
So think about that. No matter what, no matter how many representatives of the population agree or disagree on something or want something to become law, it has no effect on that process.
And I'm just going to quote the Princeton study directly here. The preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. So if you've ever felt like your opinion doesn't matter and that the government really care what you think, well, you're right. But there's catch. This flat line only accounts for the bottom 90% of income earners in America. Economic elites, business interests, can afford lobbyists, they get their own line. Look at how much closer their line is to the ideal.
So, this is how twisted our has become. Again, we don't have a democracy, like Titan said earlier. That's been stripped away from us slowly but surely for the last 40 years.
Something, they're much more likely to do it. And when they don't, they have the power to completely block it from happening, no matter how much the rest of the country supports it. They get what they want, and guess who ends up paying for it? We pay for it with the most expensive healthcare in the world. We pay for it with a tax code that's a complete mess. We pay for it with internet that's slower and more expensive, with wasteful spending, a floundering education system, a catastrophic drug war, and 1 in 5 American children born into poverty. Almost every major issue we face as a nation can be traced back to this graph. How does this happen? Well, just follow the money. Right now, it's perfectly legal to buy political influence in America. Here's how it works. Let's say a big bank wants a law that would force taxpayers to bail them out again if they repeat the exact same reckless behavior that crashed the global economy in 2000.
Now remember, we're going through this right now in real time. They are discussing this in Congress, right? The too big to fail, stretching to the hedge funds and some of these bigger, darker banks out there, right?
The most popular idea with the public, and Congress knows that. That should be the end of it. But that's where the money comes in. It's perfectly legal for our bank to hire a team of lobbyists whose entire job is to make sure that the government gives the bank what it wants. Then those lobbyists can track down members of Congress who regulate banks and help raise a ton of money for their re-election campaigns. It's perfectly legal for those lobbyists to offer those same politicians million-dollar jobs at their lobbying firm. Then those lobbyists can write the language of this new bailout law themselves and hand it off to the politician they just buttered up with campaign money and lucrative job offers.
Again, guys, this is happening in real time right now. Like, this was just a couple weeks ago. We were discussing this in the videos and on the live streams about the hedge funds, right? They are trying to manipulate it so that they can get this in and this to broaden its perspective here and be able to broaden and stretch out to some of these darker banks out there banking things with the hedge funds and saying they're too big to fail. Ellie says, well, we found that out with the stock market BS, didn't we? Right, Ellie.
And it's perfectly legal for those politicians to take the lobbyist written language and sneak it through Congress at the last second. So now we've got a law that greatly benefits the banks and the whole process can start over. This is how a bill becomes a law. A special interest hires some lobbyists. Those lobbyists collect campaign contributions, offer jobs, and then write the laws that Congress then passes to help those same special interests. This happens every day on every single issue with politicians of both parties. In the last 5 years alone, the 200 most politically active companies in the United States spent $5.8 billion influencing your government. Those same companies got $4.4 trillion in taxpayer support. And that's trillion, with a T. And that's just the top 200 companies. Never mind every other special interest, every union, every trade association, and every billionaire. Every single one of them can use their money to buy political influence. You know, there's this idea out there that this only became a problem after the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision in 2010. But the data back almost 40 years, and the results are corruption is legal in America. And as long as it is, anyone who can spend money to buy political influence will. The solution here isn't rocket science. Make corruption.
All right, so I think that graph says it all. Look, what Shanley said the other day on Jimmy's podcast was dead 100% what every politician right now running for Congress should be running on. Oh God. Term limits, right? Because here's the thing. If we don't have term limits, this process is allowed to happen year after year, decade after decade, right? So for people like Pelosi and Schumer and Dick Durbin and all these frauds out there, they've been able to do this now for decades, which has completely ruined our financial system, okay? So term limits. Then the one issue bills, right? Like he just said, they are able to, a lot of times, sneak these things in last minute through these 4,000-page bills that the Congress member has 24 hours to read, which is absolutely impossible. That's going to come to an end. The lobbying itself, the ability of people to use money and influence to change a congressperson's mind on which way they're going to vote about something needs to be eliminated from Congress. And last but not least, what am I missing? Term limits, single issue bills, term limits, single issue bills, lobbying. Is that is that 3 or 4? No matter what, those 3 you got to start with. Those 3 you've got to be started with. Anyone who's not running on a campaign like that we are just voting for the same old that we've had, and there will be no change. Until we snipe out those couple things, those issues have got to be brought to the forefront. And insider trading. That was the fourth one. Those 4 issues. If anyone is running for Congress in 2024 that is not running as those in their top 10 of things they're running against in Congress, it is just a vote for the same, like for the status quo. Like, we are not going to change anything unless we are finding people who are willing to run on that kind of campaign. And it's got to be done at the national level. It's unfortunate, but that's the road we're going down. Our professional says if apes would have actually organized and put money together from a lobbying effort, they may have had a shot at doing something instead of pissing in the wind. In comment sections, no one sees. Yeah. But again, I'm professional. A lot of us out here don't have the money to do that kind of funding, right? Like, I barely was able to fund the money to go down and do the protests in DC. It's just, we don't have unlimited funds, right? Well, the whole reason we got into the market and started fighting back against, these hedge funds and the naked shorting and everything that's going on was for to make some money, right? Like, a lot of us don't come from a ton of money. Harry says we wouldn't have these problems if Congress would follow their own rules. Remember line item veto? It was found to be unconstitutional. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I guess for the next live stream, we'll add in talking about Jacob Chansley's Congress run. That's got to be something that we're talking about. If someone's not running on that, then we are just voting for more of the same. Again, we are voting to allow these people to continue to commit crimes. We're incentivizing them to do it because they have no interest in changing it. As long as they are getting paid and are allowed to stay in power, that's all that matters to them. So until we start changing the people who are there at the top, if not, it's going to take some kind of violence things to do it. The only way we can do it peacefully is by getting people who are or running for Congress to run on these issues. They got to be at least in their top 5 or 6 that they're running on. If not, again, we are just voting for the same thing over and over and over again. All right, I don't think I have any closing thoughts. You guys know what we're going to be talking about for tomorrow. I already kind of gave you guys a preview on that. And it was, and I'll try to put it in the description down below before I upload the video. Michael Herrera, Sean Ryan podcast from, I believe it was in July. I will try to remember to put that link in when we get off. That's what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about, we're going to try to stay away from the dark stuff and going down that road of human trafficking and that kind of stuff. Just kind of stick to what we can physically attest to, or, we'll do our best to keep it out of the spiritual realm as much as possible. Hopefully we can do that. All right. Appreciate you guys all coming by and hanging out. We just ran over an hour and a half, and I'm famished. I'm going to grab some food. I appreciate you guys so much. Love you all, you guys. Thank you for the support, and I will catch you tomorrow night. We'll be on live, probably around the same time. All right, guys. Have a good one. I'm hungry.